And finally, we told you last week that Senate Republican lead Chris Gildon had issued a second request for Mayor Governor Ferguson to temporarily suspend CCA taxes to give Washingtonians some relief at the pump. A gallon of gas today, according to AAA Washington, is $5.62 on average. That's $1.46 more than the national average. Now, the Climate Commitment Act here in Washington to fund some of these projects that are aimed at reducing carbon emissions, dealing with pollution, especially in overburdened communities, adds 52 to 55 cents more on every single gallon of gas. So Senator Gildon said, just suspend it temporarily until these prices come down. And the pushback from the governor's office was to say, no, we're not going to do this. The real culprit here is President Trump and the war with Iran. Now, certainly there is some impact on gas prices since the war with Iran and everything that's been going on with the Strait of Hormuz. There's no question of that, but we can't really control that right here in the state of Washington. So Senator Gildon has said what we can do is to temporarily suspend the CCA taxes. Now, the governor said he's not going to suspend that. And he sent me the office sent me some additional information. His main communications person, Brianna Aho, sent me some information. And it pointed to some statistics from 2024. And this is 2026. So it was interesting. So I went back to Todd Myers, Vice President for Research at Washington Policy Center, who is also in charge of their Center for the Environment, and brought him what the governor's office had said and got his response to that.
Their claim is that the claim that the CCA and the low carbon fuel standard are adding 55 cents a gallon. They say that's false because of data from 2024. Well, it's 2026. And the key thing to note is that prices of the CO2 tax fluctuate based on the auction. The price right now is more than double what it was in 2024. So the CO2 tax has more than doubled. So the claim that it's not 55 cents now because in 2024 it wasn't, it's just completely out of date. It's a ridiculous argument. The governor's office clearly doesn't understand how the system works. I can't imagine them putting this out if they did understand how that system works.
Now, Todd Myers at Washington Policy Center also pushed back on something the governor's office sent me, which was also from that same 2024 Clean Fuel Standards Progress Update. And it said that Washington's clean fuel standards are a market-based policy. I got to read this so I don't mess it up. That curbs climate pollution from the transportation sector by increasing the availability and affordability of low carbon and renewable transportation fuels. Now, Myers says he actually kind of laughed when I read him that statement that I got back from the governor's office, because he said there's absolutely nothing measurable that the clean fuel standard accomplishes.
The low carbon fuel standard does not reduce CO2 emissions at all. It does zero to reduce CO2 emissions. And people don't understand this. We have the cap and trade system, the Climate Commitment Act, says here's how much CO2 must be reduced. If the clean fuel standard, the low carbon fuel standard, went completely away, we would still have to meet the exact same target. The clean fuel standard does nothing to reduce CO2 emissions. It just says here's a particular way that we want to reduce some of the CO2 emissions. So when they say, oh, it reduced CO2 emissions more than expected, no, it reduced CO2 emissions zero. What they mean, though, is that when it did more than expected, that's true, but it's an artifact of the system. The system says when prices are low, if you do more than normal, you can bank those credits and use them when prices are high. So what's going to happen is that when prices were low, they did more than they needed to do. The people who had to comply, the companies who had to comply, bought more. But in the future, they're going to use those credits. Now, would the Department of Ecology and others say, oh, they did less than they expected? No, even though it's the same exact logic. It's just a word game. And that, I think, is these people are not, our climate policy is not serious. Our climate policy has degenerated into a series of pseudo-intellectual word games that are designed to confuse the issue. Like I said, everybody else in the world knows how to do these calculations. Oregon has a very simple calculation. Oregon has been had a clean fuel standard longer than we have in Washington. They have a calculation. Every year they apply the calculation. It's very straightforward. It's very rigorous. It's the same one that everybody else uses. Only Washington State uses this ridiculous system where it's like, well, we don't really know. It could be this or it's like everybody else knows. Use the Oregon price. The Oregon calculation simply says, here's how many credits were sold, here's the price, here's how much they reduce CO2 emission. There you go.
I did reach back out this morning to the office of Governor Ferguson with some of the comments that Myers said in response to the information they sent me last week, and I received no response today. Gas, by the way, is 14 cents cheaper today than it was a month ago. So that's something. It's, I know, little relief for many of us who put a lot of miles on, but maybe we're going in the right direction. We hope it continues to trend that way for you, especially you truckers paying diesel. It is just painful. So that's it for today's episode of Washington in Focus Daily for this Monday, June the 8th. I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. In the meantime, check out our Center Square Washington page for more articles like this. And again, thanks for watching.